The royal morning begins. The morning sun painted golden streaks across the windows of Adelaide Cottage as Catherine, Princess of Wales, stood before her mirror, adjusting the final touches of her elegant cream-colored dress. The soft fabric flowed gracefully, chosen specifically to complement the grandeur of the day ahead while maintaining the refined elegance she was known for. Her hands trembled slightly, not from nervousness about the cameras or crowds that awaited, but from the profound weight of witnessing history unfold before her family's eyes. William emerged from the adjoining room, resplendent in his ceremonial uniform, the deep blue fabric adorned with golden braiding that caught the morning light. His movements carried the practiced grace of someone born into royal duty, yet his eyes reflected the same mixture of anticipation and solemnity that Catherine felt. Today wasn't just another royal engagement or state function. It was the coronation of his father, King Charles III, a moment that would forever alter the landscape of the British monarchy. The sound of excited chatter drifted from down the hallway, where their 3 children were being prepared by their dedicated staff. 9-year-old Prince George, as the future heir to the throne, understood the significance of the day better than his younger siblings. He had been carefully briefed on his role and responsibilities, though the weight of his future destiny remained a distant concept in his young mind. His excitement was infectious, bouncing between questions about the ceremony and observations about his formal attire. Princess Charlotte, now 8 years old, possessed a natural poise that often surprised the adults around her. She moved through her morning preparations with a confidence that seemed to come effortlessly, her bright eyes sparkling with curiosity about every detail of the day ahead. Her dress, carefully selected to honor both tradition and her youthful spirit, made her feel like a real princess from the fairy tales she loved to read. 5-year-old Prince Louis, the youngest of the Wales children, brought his characteristic energy to the morning's proceedings. His enthusiasm was both endearing and slightly challenging for his caregivers, who worked patiently to help him understand the importance of staying calm and following royal protocol during the lengthy ceremony. His genuine excitement about seeing his grandfather become king created moments of pure joy that lightened the formal atmosphere surrounding the preparations. Catherine moved through their home, checking on each child personally, offering gentle words of encouragement and ensuring they felt secure and loved, despite the extraordinary nature of the day. Her maternal instincts remained strong even as she prepared to step into one of the most significant public moments of her life as a member of the royal family. She knew that today would be remembered not just as King Charles's coronation, but as a defining moment for their entire family unit. William found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this moment. From their university romance, at St. Andrews, to their fairy tale wedding, from the birth of their children to the countless royal duties they had undertaken together, every step had been preparing them for days like this. The weight of responsibility felt heavier, knowing that his children would one day carry these same burdens and privileges. The household staff moved with quiet efficiency, ensuring every detail was perfect while maintaining the warm, family-oriented atmosphere that Catherine and William had worked hard to create in their home. Despite the grandeur of their royal status, they had always prioritized creating a sense of normalcy for their children, and today's preparations reflected that careful balance between duty and family life. As the morning progressed, the reality of the day began to settle over the family. This wasn't just about appearing at a ceremony. They were about to witness and participate in a moment that would echo through British history for generations to come. The children would remember this day for the rest of their lives, and Catherine and William felt the profound responsibility of helping them navigate both the excitement and the significance of the occasion. The final preparations included a family moment of quiet reflection, where William and Catherine gathered their children to speak about the meaning of the day. They explained in age-appropriate terms how their grandfather was about to make a sacred promise to serve the people of Britain and the Commonwealth, and how their family would continue to support him in that mission. The children listened, with varying degrees of understanding, but all three seemed to grasp that something very important was happening. Outside their windows, the world was already buzzing with anticipation. Streets were being closed, security was being positioned, and thousands of people were making their way to London to witness this historic moment. But inside Adelaide Cottage, the focus remained on family, on supporting each other, and on preparing to step into the public eye with grace, dignity, and the united strength that had come to define the Wales family in the public consciousness. The journey to Westminster. The sleek royal car pulled away from Adelaide Cottage with a quiet purr, beginning the journey that would take the Wales family from the peaceful privacy of their home to the very center of British public life. Catherine sat gracefully in the back seat, her cream dress arranged carefully to avoid wrinkles, while William adjusted his ceremonial decorations one final time. Between them, their three children sat with varying degrees of composure, each processing the magnitude of the day in their own unique way. Prince George gazed out the window with serious concentration, watching as the familiar countryside gradually gave way to the bustling outskirts of London. His young mind was already working through the sequence of events he had been taught to expect, mentally preparing for his role in the ceremony. The responsibility of being second in line to the throne weighed on his shoulders in a way that was both age-appropriate and profound, creating a maturity in his demeanor that impressed the adults around him. Princess Charlotte chattered quietly with her mother, pointing out interesting sights along the route and asking thoughtful questions about what they would see at Westminster Abbey. Her natural curiosity and confidence made her an engaging travel companion, and Catherine found herself both answering her daughter's questions and learning from her fresh perspective on the day's events. Charlotte's enthusiasm helped maintain a positive atmosphere in the car, despite the underlying tension of the approaching ceremony. Prince Louis, true to his energetic nature, found it challenging to sit still for the extended car ride. His parents and siblings took turns engaging him in quiet games and conversations, helping him channel his excitement in appropriate ways. His innocent questions about why everyone was being so serious brought moments of lightness to the journey, reminding the family that beneath all the ceremony and protocol, this was ultimately a celebration of their beloved grandfather's new role. As they approached London, the streets began to fill with people. Crowds lined the roadways, many holding small Union Jack flags and homemade signs expressing their support for the royal family. Children waved enthusiastically from their parents' shoulders, and elderly couples stood patiently despite the early morning chill. The sight of so many people gathered to witness this historic moment created a palpable energy that even the youngest members of the Wales family could feel. William found himself moved by the dedication of the crowds. These were people who had risen before dawn, traveled from across the country, and stood for hours just for the chance to glimpse the royal family on this significant day. Their commitment to the monarchy and to his father's coronation reinforced his understanding of the deep connection between the royal family and the British people, a relationship built on centuries of tradition and mutual respect. Catherine watched the faces in the crowd with genuine warmth, occasionally catching the eye of a child or elderly person and offering a gentle wave or smile. Her natural ability to connect with people, even through the window of a moving car, had always been one of her greatest strengths as a member of the royal family. She understood that these moments of human connection, however brief, meant something significant to the people who had come to share in their family's important day. The security presence became more pronounced as they neared Westminster, with police officers and barriers creating clear pathways for the royal convoy. Yet the increased security measures couldn't diminish the festive atmosphere that surrounded their journey. Street musicians played patriotic songs, vendors sold commemorative items, and impromptu celebrations broke out among groups of spectators, who had been waiting since the early hours of the morning. Inside the car, the family's conversation turned to final preparations and gentle reminders about protocol. William and Catherine had spent weeks preparing their children for this moment, but they knew that no amount of practice could fully replicate the actual experience of participating in such a momentous ceremony. They focused on reassuring their children while also ensuring they understood the importance of their behavior during the service. The children's excitement was infectious, even as they demonstrated remarkable self-control for their ages. George asked thoughtful questions about the historical significance of Westminster Abbey. Charlotte wondered about the other royal family members they would see, and Louis simply expressed his anticipation about seeing his grandfather wearing the crown. Each child's personality shone through their reactions, creating a beautiful family dynamic that would soon be on display for the world to witness. As the car made its final approach to Westminster Abbey, the magnitude of the event became undeniable. The ancient building stood majestic against the London sky, its Gothic architecture providing a stunning backdrop for the most important ceremony in British royal life. Television crews from around the world had positioned their cameras to capture every moment, and the sound of church bells began to ring across the city, announcing that this historic day was truly beginning. The family shared a moment of quiet unity as they prepared to step out of their private sanctuary and into the public eye. William reached for Catherine's hand, while she ensured that each of their children felt secure and ready for what lay ahead. They had traveled not just from their home to Westminster Abbey, but from private family life into a moment that would be remembered and studied by historians for generations to come. Arrival at Westminster Abbey. The royal car came to a gentle stop outside Westminster Abbey, and suddenly the controlled quiet of their private journey was replaced by the overwhelming symphony of a world watching. Camera shutters clicked like rainfall. Crowds cheered with enthusiasm that echoed off the ancient stone walls, and the ceremonial fanfare announced their arrival to millions of viewers around the globe. Catherine took a deep breath, feeling the familiar surge of adrenaline that came with stepping into such intense public scrutiny, while William straightened his shoulders with the practiced dignity of someone who had been preparing for moments like this his entire life. The car door opened, and William stepped out first, his ceremonial uniform immediately catching the attention of photographers and spectators alike. His presence commanded respect and attention, but his movements remained natural and warm as he turned to assist his wife. Catherine emerged with fluid grace, her cream-colored dress flowing elegantly as she stepped onto the red carpet that had been laid out for the royal family's arrival. The crowd's appreciation was immediate and heartfelt, with many people calling out words of support and admiration. Prince George followed his parents with remarkable composure for a 9-year-old boy who suddenly found himself at the center of international attention. His formal attire and serious expression reflected his understanding of the day's importance, yet his eyes sparkled with the natural curiosity of childhood as he took in the magnificent scene around him. The weight of being second in line to the throne seemed to settle on his young shoulders, giving him a poise that impressed even the most experienced royal watchers. Princess Charlotte stepped out of the car with the confidence that had become her trademark, her bright smile lighting up her face as she waved to the crowds. Her natural ability to connect with people shone through immediately, and the spectators responded with particular warmth to her genuine enthusiasm. She moved with an elegance that seemed effortless, already displaying the qualities that would serve her well in her future royal duties. Prince Louis, the youngest member of the family, brought his characteristic energy to the moment. While his parents and siblings had perfected the art of controlled royal behavior, 5-year-old Louis remained wonderfully authentic in his reactions to the extraordinary scene around him. His wide-eyed wonder at the crowds, the decorations, and the general excitement created some of the most endearing moments of their arrival, reminding everyone watching that beneath all the ceremony and protocol, this was still a family sharing, an important milestone. The family moved together along the red carpet, their unity evident in the way they naturally supported and guided each other through the intense public moment. Catherine's maternal instincts remained sharp even as she maintained her public composure, keeping a watchful eye on all three children while gracefully acknowledging the crowds and cameras. William walked with the confident stride of someone comfortable in his role, yet his frequent glances toward his family showed where his priorities truly lay. Westminster Abbey loomed magnificently before them, its ancient walls having witnessed centuries of coronations, royal weddings, and other significant moments in British history. The building itself seemed to radiate the weight of tradition and ceremony, creating an atmosphere that was both inspiring and slightly intimidating. For the children, seeing the Abbey decorated specifically for their grandfather's coronation was like stepping into a living history book. The crowds that had gathered to witness their arrival represented a cross-section of British society and international visitors, all united in their desire to be part of this historic moment. Elderly couples who remembered previous coronations stood alongside young families, introducing their children to royal tradition. Visitors from Commonwealth countries waved their national flags alongside Union Jacks, creating a colorful display of international support for the monarchy. Royal protocol officers and security personnel moved discreetly around the family, ensuring that everything proceeded according to the carefully planned schedule while remaining as invisible as possible. Their professionalism allowed the Wales family to focus on the moment itself, rather than worrying about logistics or safety concerns. The seamless coordination of so many moving parts demonstrated the years of preparation that had gone into making this day perfect. As they approached the Abbey's entrance, other members of the royal family and distinguished guests could be seen arriving in their own processions. The sight of so many important figures gathering in one place reinforced the extraordinary nature of the occasion. For George, Charlotte, and Louis, seeing their extended family in such formal circumstances added another layer of significance to their understanding of their own roles within the monarchy. The sound of the Abbey's bells grew louder as they drew closer to the entrance, their ancient bronze voices calling out across London and announcing to the city that the coronation ceremony was about to begin. The bells had rung for coronations stretching back centuries, creating a direct connection between this modern ceremony and the long line of British monarchs who had been crowned in this same sacred space. Cathedral officials in their ceremonial robes waited at the entrance to welcome the royal family, their presence adding to the religious solemnity of the occasion. The transition from the public spectacle outside to the sacred ceremony within was about to begin, and the Wales family prepared to move from the role of arriving guests to active participants in one of the most important rituals of British constitutional life. The final moments before entering the Abbey allowed for one last private exchange between family members, a quiet word of encouragement, or a gentle touch of support that would strengthen them for the ceremony ahead. Despite all the public attention and historical significance, they remained, at their core, a family supporting each other through an extraordinary experience that would bond them together forever. Inside the sacred Abbey, stepping across the threshold of Westminster Abbey was like entering a different world entirely, where centuries of history seemed to whisper from every stone, and the very air felt charged with the weight of royal tradition. The ancient Gothic arches soared overhead, their intricate stonework framing a scene that had been carefully prepared for this momentous occasion. Golden light filtered through the magnificent stained glass windows, casting jewel-toned reflections across the faces of the distinguished guests who had gathered from around the world to witness King Charles III's coronation. Catherine felt the immediate shift in atmosphere as they moved from the external excitement of the crowds into the reverent solemnity of the Abbey's interior. The cool stone walls seemed to embrace them with the accumulated dignity of nearly 1,000 years of royal ceremonies. Her training in royal protocol served her well as she guided her children through this transition, helping them understand that they were now entering a sacred space where different rules and expectations would guide their behavior. Prince George's eyes widened as he took in the magnificent decorations that had transformed the familiar abbey into something even more spectacular than usual. Golden cloth draped ceremonial areas, fresh flowers created aromatic displays throughout the nave, and the positioning of chairs and ceremonial items spoke to months of meticulous planning. His young mind tried to process the reality that his grandfather would soon be crowned king in this very space, making him not just a beloved family member, but the constitutional head of state. The seating arrangements reflected the complex hierarchy of British and international dignitaries, with each placement carefully considered to honor protocol while accommodating the practical needs of the ceremony. Representatives from Commonwealth countries, European royalty, political leaders, and religious figures had all been positioned according to centuries-old traditions that balanced respect, practicality, and diplomatic considerations. For Charlotte, seeing so many important people gathered in one place reinforced her understanding of her family's significant role in world affairs. Prince Louis found himself fascinated by the Abbey's acoustic properties, which seemed to amplify every whisper and footstep into something more significant. The sound of their movements across the ancient stone floors created a rhythm that matched his excited heartbeat, while the distant preparation sounds from the clergy and ceremony officials built anticipation for what was about to unfold. His natural energy required gentle guidance from his parents as he learned to moderate his enthusiasm within the sacred space. William felt the profound weight of history as he looked around the Abbey where so many pivotal moments in British royal life had taken place. This was where his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, had been crowned decades earlier, where he and Catherine had exchanged wedding vows, and where countless other ceremonies had marked the passage of time and the continuity of the monarchy. Today would add another chapter to that long story, with his father taking on the ultimate responsibility of constitutional leadership. The family was guided to their designated seats, positioned to provide them with clear views of the ceremony, while maintaining the proper protocol relationships with other family members and dignitaries. Catherine's experience in royal ceremonies helped her assist the children in settling into their chairs gracefully, ensuring that they would be comfortable during what promised to be a lengthy and complex service. Her quiet confidence provided stability for her family in this overwhelming environment. As they waited for the ceremony to begin, the Abbey gradually filled with the soft sounds of distinguished conversation, rustling ceremonial robes, and the careful movements of officiants making final preparations. The atmosphere was one of controlled anticipation, with everyone present understanding that they were about to witness something that would be remembered and studied for generations, too. "Come." The children's whispered questions to their parents added a touching human element to the formal surroundings. The magnificent altar area had been prepared with religious artifacts and ceremonial items that dated back centuries, each piece carrying its own historical significance and symbolic meaning. Golden chalices, ancient prayer books, and ceremonial vestments created a display that was both beautiful and deeply meaningful within the context of British constitutional tradition. For George, seeing these historic items in person helped him understand the continuity between past and present that his family represented. Distinguished guests continued to arrive and take their seats, creating a gathering that represented not just British society, but the international community that would recognize and work with King Charles III in his new role. Ambassadors, prime ministers, religious leaders, and members of other royal families created an assembly that demonstrated the monarchy's continued relevance in modern international relations. The children observed these arrivals with fascination, beginning to grasp the global significance of their family's position. The Abbey's choir could be heard in the distance, warming up their voices for the musical portions of the ceremony that would add another layer of beauty and solemnity to the proceedings. Their practice notes echoed through the ancient stone chambers, creating an atmosphere of anticipation and reverence that helped prepare everyone present for the sacred moments that were about to unfold. The sound of their voices seemed to connect the present ceremony with centuries of similar celebrations that had filled this same space with song and worship. Cathedral officials moved through the space with quiet efficiency, making final checks on ceremonial arrangements and ensuring that every detail was perfectly positioned for the ceremony. Their dedication to creating a flawless experience reflected the months of preparation that had gone into this single day, and their professionalism helped maintain the atmosphere of dignity and reverence that such an occasion demanded. The Wales family watched these final preparations with appreciation for the countless people who had worked to make this moment possible. The sacred ceremony unfolds. The moment arrived with the deep, resonant sound of ceremonial trumpets that seemed to make the very stones of Westminster Abbey vibrate with anticipation. King Charles III appeared at the Abbey's entrance, his presence immediately commanding the attention and respect of every person gathered in the sacred space. He moved with the measured dignity that had been cultivated over decades of royal service, yet there was something profoundly moving about seeing him prepare to accept the ultimate responsibility of constitutional monarchy. For William, watching his father approach this defining moment created a complex mix of pride, emotion, and understanding of the weight that would one day rest on his own shoulders. Catherine felt her breath catch as she watched her father-in-law begin his procession down the Abbey's ancient nave. The ceremonial robes he wore connected him to centuries of British monarchs who had walked this same path. Yet his individual character and personality remained evident in the way he acknowledged the assembled guests, with subtle nods and warm glances. She squeezed William's hand gently, understanding that this moment represented not just a public ceremony, but a profound family milestone that would reshape their lives in ways both visible and invisible. Prince George watched with the intense concentration of someone trying to memorize every detail of an experience he knew he would never forget. His young mind worked to connect the grandfather he knew from family gatherings with this formal figure preparing to become king. The elaborate ceremony, with its ancient rituals and symbolic actions, began to make sense as he understood that these traditions weren't just historical curiosities but living practices that would continue through his own eventual reign. His serious expression reflected his growing comprehension of the continuity he represented. The Archbishop of Canterbury's voice filled the Abbey as he began the ancient words of the coronation service, each phrase carrying the weight of tradition and the promise of faithful service that defined constitutional monarchy. Princess Charlotte listened intently, her natural curiosity engaged by the beautiful language and solemn promises being made. She could see her grandfather's face clearly from their position, noting the mixture of solemnity and determination that marked this transformation from Prince of Wales to King of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth realms. Prince Louis tried his best to remain still and quiet, though his 5-year-old energy occasionally required gentle guidance from his parents. The ceremony's length tested his patience, but his genuine love for his grandfather helped him focus on the significance of what was happening rather than his own discomfort. When the moment came for the actual crowning, his eyes grew wide with wonder as he watched the ancient St. Edward's crown being placed upon King Charles's head, officially transforming him into the monarch. The choir's voices soared through the Abbey as they sang hymns that had been chosen specifically for their spiritual significance and their connection to British royal tradition. The musical selections created moments of transcendent beauty that elevated the ceremony beyond mere protocol into something approaching the sacred. William found himself deeply moved by the combination of music, architecture, and ritual that created an atmosphere unlike anything else in modern public life. The moment of coronation itself seemed to suspend time, as if the entire abbey held its collective breath while witnessing this ancient ritual being performed once again. The archbishop's words of blessing and the physical act of placing the crown created a transformation that was both symbolic and deeply real. Catherine watched her father-in-law's face during this crucial moment, seeing him accept not just a crown, but the full weight of constitutional responsibility for millions of people across the United Kingdom and Commonwealth. Following the crowning, the congregation participated in the traditional acclamation, their voices joining together to proclaim, "God save the King," with an enthusiasm that reflected both respect for the monarchy and genuine affection for the man who had now become their sovereign. The children added their young voices to this historic moment, understanding that they were participating in something that connected them to British citizens past and future who had witnessed similar ceremonies in this same sacred space. The ceremony continued with the presentation of various royal regalia, each item carrying its own historical significance and symbolic meaning. The sovereign's orb, representing Christ's dominion over the world, and the scepter, symbolizing temporal power guided by spiritual authority, were placed in the new king's hands as visual reminders of the balance between earthly leadership and moral responsibility that defined his new role. George watched these presentations with fascination, beginning to understand the symbolic language that surrounded royal ceremony. Religious leaders from various Christian denominations participated in different portions of the service, reflecting both the king's role as supreme governor of the Church of England and his commitment to serving people of all faiths within his realms. Their participation demonstrated the inclusive nature of modern constitutional monarchy while maintaining connection to the Christian traditions that had shaped British law and culture for centuries. The children observed these diverse contributions with interest, learning about the religious diversity within their future subjects. As the ceremony moved toward its conclusion, the atmosphere in the abbey shifted from solemn concentration to celebratory joy. The successful completion of the coronation meant that Britain had a new king, and the constitutional continuity that was so important to the stability of the realm had been maintained according to ancient tradition. Family members exchanged glances of relief and happiness, knowing that this crucial milestone had been achieved with dignity and beauty. The final musical selections filled the abbey with sounds of celebration and thanksgiving, creating an emotional crescendo that matched the significance of what had just been accomplished. The Wales family joined in the congregational singing, their voices blending with those of dignitaries, religious leaders, and representatives from around the world in a moment of unity that transcended individual differences and national boundaries, celebrating the peaceful transfer of constitutional authority that was the hallmark of British democratic monarchy. A new chapter begins. The triumphant sound of the Abbey's bells echoed across London as the coronation ceremony reached its magnificent conclusion, their bronze voices carrying the news of Britain's new king to every corner of the capital city. King Charles III, now wearing the imperial state crown, moved through the final moments of the service with a radiance that seemed to come from deep within, as if the weight of his new responsibilities had somehow freed him to become the monarch he had been preparing to be his entire life. The transformation was visible not just in the ceremonial regalia he now wore, but in his bearing, his expression, and the way he carried himself as he prepared to leave Westminster Abbey as a crowned king. William felt an overwhelming surge of pride and emotion as he watched his father complete this historic journey from heir to sovereign. The young man who had once wondered if this day would ever come now found himself looking at a king who seemed perfectly suited to the role he had finally assumed. The ceremony had changed not just his father's official title, but had somehow crystallized decades of preparation into a moment of perfect readiness for the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. Catherine gathered her children close as they prepared to join the procession that would take the newly crowned King and his family back through the Abbey and out into the London streets where thousands of people waited to catch a glimpse of their new monarch. The ceremony had been flawless, but she knew that the public celebration that awaited them outside would be equally important in establishing King Charles III in the hearts and minds of his subjects. Her maternal pride in how beautifully their children had behaved throughout the lengthy ceremony mixed with her awareness that they had just participated in one of the most significant moments in modern British history. Prince George walked with newfound understanding of his place in the line of succession. Watching his grandfather become king had made abstract concepts of royal duty suddenly concrete and real. The crown that now rested on King Charles's head would one day pass to his father and eventually to him, creating a chain of responsibility that stretched far into the future. Yet rather than feeling burdened by this knowledge, he seemed energized by his role in this continuing story of British constitutional monarchy. As they moved through the Abbey's ancient corridors toward the exit, Princess Charlotte's natural confidence shone brightly. She had conducted herself with remarkable poise throughout the ceremony, and now seemed eager to share in the celebration that awaited them outside. Her instinctive understanding of public engagement would serve her well in her future royal duties, and today had provided her with a masterclass in how ceremonial occasions could bring people together in shared moments of national significance. Prince Louis, despite his young age, seemed to understand that something very important had just happened to their family. His excitement was infectious, and his genuine enthusiasm for seeing his grandfather as king created touching moments of pure joy that lightened the formal atmosphere surrounding their departure from the Abbey. His authentic reactions reminded everyone around him that beneath all the ceremony and protocol, this was ultimately a family celebrating a beloved member's achievement of his life's greatest goal. The procession out of Westminster Abbey provided a final opportunity to appreciate the magnificent setting that had hosted this historic ceremony. The ancient stones seemed to glow with satisfaction at having witnessed another successful coronation, adding this day to their long memory of royal ceremonies stretching back nearly 1,000 years. The Wales family took one last look at the altar where King Charles had been crowned, knowing that this image would remain with them for the rest of their lives. Stepping back into the London daylight felt like emerging into a different world, where the solemn reverence of the Abbey gave way to the joyous celebration of thousands of people who had waited patiently for hours to share in this moment. The crowd's enthusiasm was immediate and overwhelming, with cheers and applause greeting the royal family as they appeared in the Abbey's doorway. The sound of so many people celebrating their new king created an atmosphere of genuine festivity that spoke to the enduring connection between the British monarchy and its subjects. The journey back to Buckingham Palace would provide opportunities for King Charles and his family to acknowledge the crowds that lined the streets of London, offering thanks to the people who had made this day possible through their support and participation. For the Wales family, this would be their first public appearance as the family of a reigning monarch, marking the beginning of a new phase in their royal duties and public service, as they prepared to enter the state carriages that would carry them through London's streets. The family shared private moments of connection and mutual support. The successful completion of the coronation represented not just the fulfillment of King Charles's destiny, but the beginning of a new era for their entire family. The children had proven themselves capable of rising to meet the most formal and demanding royal occasions, while William and Catherine had demonstrated their readiness to support the new king in his constitutional duties. The bells of Westminster Abbey continued to ring as the royal procession prepared to depart, their ancient voices announcing to London and the world that Britain had successfully crowned a new king. The ceremony that had begun with careful preparation in the quiet privacy of Adelaide Cottage had culminated in this moment of public celebration, where thousands of people gathered to express their support for the constitutional monarchy that had provided stability and continuity for British democracy across the centuries. Looking ahead, the Wales family understood that today marked not an ending, but a beginning. King Charles III would now begin his reign with their full support, while they themselves stepped into new roles and responsibilities as members of his royal family. The children had gained their first real understanding of the duties that awaited them in the future, while William and Catherine had demonstrated their commitment to supporting the monarchy through its continued evolution and service to the British people and the Commonwealth.